Hey, what's up guys? Courier6 with the cEDH Express, your #1 source for Universes Beyond. And today we're going to be talking about the 5 decks you should probably have if you're going to like a Command Fest, a Magic Fest, anything like that. Any place you're going to play Commander but you're not sure who you're going to be playing with or what kind of decks they're going to have. Today I'm going to talk about the 5 decks that I generally always carry with me whenever I go to Command Fest or Magic Fest. But it's not specifically always these decks, it's decks that fill a very specific role, and we're going to talk about those roles too. Having a variety of decks is going to be very useful for you when you go to events like Command Fest, because you never know exactly what you're going to sit down with if you plan on playing with strangers. Now if you're only playing with your friends, play to your play group. But when I end up going to these events, I try to play with a lot of different people that I don't normally get the chance to play with, so not knowing exactly what they're going to be doing makes it hard to deck build around that. Fortunately for me, I've come up with a system, or a very loose system, of what 5 decks I should always have on me to make sure I can always get a game, or at least relatively reliably. I can sit down and just play a game with some strangers and know I'm going to have an okay time. So without further ado, let's get into these categories and let me explain each one to you. The first deck that I always have when I go to any event, and this one is actually probably an actual constant, I have not changed out this deck in quite a long time, it's Hackball of the Surging Soul, and this fills my upgraded precon kind of role. When I say upgraded, I mean the cards you'd expect to see in an upgraded Hackball deck. So I have cards like Vodalian Hexcatcher, which, is pretty standard for any Hackball upgrade guide. But I also have cards like Biophagus, so I can add more +1/+1 counters to my Hackball. I've got the new card Railway Brawler. This one does the most work, actually. Puts so many counters in so many things. And then obviously because I had them, I upgraded the lands because this is an upgrade deck. I upgraded with Tropical Island and Breeding Pool. Now this Tropical Island, real quick aside, is not real, obviously. Yes, this is a Ken Meyer Jr. proxy Tropical Island that I use in place of Tropical Island in my actual decks because I don't want to buy 74 Tropical Islands. Anyway, the point of having an upgraded precon is that generally you can sit at most tables and not pub stomp with an upgraded precon, and also still hang in there most of the time. Unless you're playing against super sweaty combo cEDH players, you're gonna have a fine time with the upgraded precon, and I don't have to think too much. That's the one this is probably the deck I grab for most when I don't know what people are playing and they don't want to talk about their decks. I'm like, okay, Hackball does a thing, it does it pretty well, pretty consistently, not perfectly, and I know that I'll at least be doing something on most of my turns. So that's why I usually carry Hackball with me or an upgraded precon, but usually Hackball recently. The next deck I have with me is a fully focused, constructed, just powerful commander deck, and this deck right now is being filled by Urza Chief Artificer. Now I like Urza Chief Artificer because artifacts are very simple. They have a big Achilles heel as the whole deck's about artifacts, so Vandal Blast destroys my life. However, I think this deck is more than powerful enough to take on most what people would call level 7 decks. Now, I don't know what a level 7 is, and you don't know what a level 7 is, but everybody has a level 7 deck. So if you say level 7, this is the deck I usually pull out. It's obviously not cEDH. There is no real cEDH Urza Chief Artificer deck, at least as far as I know. And it doesn't really scream remove on site at all times. Side note, I'm actually also playing this deck in my precon league at my LGS, and in an all precon environment, this guy is actually remove on site, so be warned. But not when you're playing a constructed commander game. Usually it's like fine, right? So for this deck, I have really powerful cards in here like Urza, Lord High Artificer. I've got Otawara, the Soaring City, cards like Helm of the Host, Urza, Lord Protector, and the Might Stone and Weak Stone, and obviously a fully upgraded mana base. This is a relatively powerful deck. This is a level 7. If people ask for level 7, this is what I perceive a level 7 to be. And I think it's important that you also have what you perceive a level 7 to be on your person if you plan on playing with strangers. This is the most nebulous of the categories because, again, nobody knows what level 7 is, but we should really stop saying it. And this is what I perceive a level 7 to be. If you don't, make sure to let me know in the comments. I'm not going to take this deck out of my rotation right now. I really like this deck, but we should probably, as a community, figure out what a level 7 is. Until then, Urza feels like a level 7 to me. Alright, the next kind of deck I always have on my person is a jank deck, or at least a deck that I'm still in the process of testing. Now for this deck, in this category right now, I am playing Sean, Father of Synths. I made a video about him on my channel already. The deck in that video is not the most jank, but it has only gotten jankier since then, and this deck is super fun. So, a quick recap about Sean, or at least some of the new cards I've added. How about that? I've added Dance Battle from the Fortnite Secret Lair. It makes clones. It's pretty good. I've added Dr. Ian Malcolm, Chaostician.
The essence of chaos.
I've added Myra the Magnificent because the attraction she opens makes artifacts, which, is pretty cool. Most of the deck is actually artifacts. I've added Senator Peacock because she can let my artifacts crack for card draw, which is pretty cool. And I added the 12th Doctor because I wanted another Doctor who got in the deck. I don't think it's actually great. Having a jank deck is probably a pretty good idea when you're going to one of these events. People sometimes are like, I just made this deck, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm not sure how this deck's going to play. I genuinely, they'll come to you with the energy. It's like, yeah, I just want to play some wacky battlecruiser type commander. And with a jank deck or a deck that's still in testing, A, you get to test your deck, which is pretty nice. You get to work out some more of its flaws, and B, you get to like have a cool battlecruiser game, especially if that's what you're looking for. Jank decks are the way to go. This deck does not have a fully upgraded mana base. It also doesn't have all of its mana rocks. That might not be true. It might have all its mana rocks now, like the talismans, the signets, things like that. But it definitely doesn't have mana vault, and it definitely doesn't have mana crypt, like some of my other decks do. This is just a fun, I got 100 cards I really like, threw them in a box together, made sure the colors were correct, and off to the races. Having one of those on me has been invaluable, especially the last few weeks. I've been playing a lot of Commander at one of my local Commander spots that I don't normally get to go to, and a lot of people there go for testing. Like, a lot of people there just go to try out their decks. So it's been really nice to also try out my deck, but also give them just some fun, memorable games, like being able to throw out a bunch of attractions with Myra and then tap them for mana with Urza and bring out something like, oh gosh, he's going to drop like Ganezal or something. Nope, here's some other dumb legend that does nothing for the board state, and it's just kind of fun. Having a jank deck works for me when I go to these events. Maybe you should try it too. All right, the fourth type of commander deck I try to always have in my person is a straight precon. This precon is Dr. Madison Lee. It is rarity upgraded, not actually upgraded, so the deck is still 100% precon. I just went and got the surge foils and whatever else that I could find to make the deck look prettier. But it is a precon. And I try to keep a precon on me because there are some times where new players sit down, they're like, hey, I just bought this precon, I want to play, or I'm just learning how to play, or I just bought this new precon, I want to try it. And it's really nice to have another precon so you can play within a environment that's not going to pub stomp usually. I also picked Dr. Madison Lee for this category because she feels like the most precon. Like, she's not great out of the box. I really like her, but the energy mechanic was not super fleshed out, and we definitely didn't get a lot of great energy cards in Madison Lee. We got some. We did get some really good energy cards, but we didn't get amazing energy cards. So, you know, it's just kind of a mid deck that's also fun to play. Like, I also enjoy just playing with Dr. Madison Lee, keeping track of my energy counters, things like that. I think finding a precon that you enjoy, that you don't mind not upgrading, is probably a pretty good idea. If you're going to one of these events, you will find opportunities to play it. Trust me. And the final deck that I always try to keep on my person is my Tatyova, at this point, straight cEDH commander deck. It's not really Tatyova turns, but it is Tatyova Value Town. I think if I showed this deck list to a cEDH player, they would absolutely tell me it's not a cEDH deck. But I've sat down with many a play group and they're like, this is a cEDH deck. So sure, it's a cEDH Tatyova deck. And I always keep Tatyova on me. This is the only deck that I've never taken apart or ripped for parts or anything like that. I always keep Tatyova on my person because, well, I love this commander. And I think having your favorite commander deck, the one that you are proud to show off at all times, is also a really good idea when you go to these events. For a couple of events, I actually stopped taking Tatyova with me because, you know, it's really expensive actually. It has the fully upgraded mana base, including the Tropical Island and Gaia's Cradle. It has every counterspell under the sun. It is very powerful and very expensive. They're also all the highest rarity. I love showing off this deck. I am nervous when pulling it out of the box. But having this on you when you go to events, or having a deck that you're very proud of, is really cool. You get to show off the deck you don't normally get to show off to people because your friends have already seen it and they don't care anymore. But when I go to conventions, I could be like, hey, you guys want to see my really cool deck? You guys want to see the really cool thing I put together? And they're like, yeah, most of the time. And I get to show off my really fun build of my favorite commander, doing my favorite thing. Very powerful. No one has feel bads, you know? As long as you're clear, that's what you're doing up front. Also, I get to enter cEDH events if I want to. I don't do well in them. I have entered a couple before with this deck, and that's why I also don't think it's cEDH, but everyone tells me I'm wrong, but everyone, you know, whatever. I have entered cEDH events with this commander. I didn't do well, but I was able to hang and kind of play and kind of feel like I was part of the group. So Tatyova or a cEDH deck is also recommended. Now, Tatyova, and especially my build of it, it's very expensive. I'm never going to show it on camera. However, you can find very cheap cEDH decks Stella Lee Wildcard is a cEDH deck I was building up until recently. I gave up on it. I'm not really a cEDH player, but with a couple of upgrades like Twitch and, oh god, Twisted Fealty, I think is another one, you can make a upgraded Stella Lee Wildcard deck that is very cEDH for relatively cheap, and then over time you can upgrade, you know, your counter spells and your interaction. So ones to think about. I also feel like it went off pretty well without all the upgraded mana rocks, so you know, try that one. But there are cheap cEDH decks you can build and try, so I do recommend having something cEDH or close to cEDH when you go to these events. And yeah, that's about it. Those are the 5 decks that I typically carry with me when I go to conventions. I hope these categories were helpful to you. I hope, like, me explaining it the way I did was able to make it clear as to why I carry these 5 decks or decks of these caliber. Other decks I've carried for other categories. For precons, I've also carried the Necrons precon from Warhammer. I carried the Atraxa one for a while. That was a mistake. It's a little too powerful to be really considered a precon, so I don't carry that one anymore. I've also carried all of the different Fallout precons at some point or another. I really like the Fallout. Obviously, I'm a really big Fallout fan. Probably noticed it from the name of my channel, but yeah, I love Fallout. So I've carried all those precons at some point or another. I've had a million different constructed, like, fully built decks before. My other favorite deck, Vivictus Asmati the Dire, was a deck I used to carry everywhere, but I've since taken it apart. It was just too slow for most games. Too slow for level 7 games. Too powerful for, like, jank games, you know what I mean? So I had to take that one apart. But yeah, find some decks that fit these categories, and I am sure you're going to have a great time at the next convention you go to. I'm sure you'll have a great time at the next game night at your LGS if you have these decks on. You'll be able to play some new people you don't normally play with, maybe. But yeah, that's about it. I'm Courier6, the Kaladesh Express, your number one source for Universes Beyond. And hey guys, the video is going to be coming a little slower the next couple of weeks. Like I said, I think in the last video, I'm getting married, and I will also be out of the country after that for a while. I'll take some videos, I'll post some stuff. But yeah, I just will not be around to post videos for a minute, and I'm sorry, but I hope you enjoy the content. I'll try to get one more video out before I'm gone for my trip, and I hope you have a great day.